And so for me, even till this day, and I don't know, maybe Alex, you resonate with this. Like, I came from the healthcare field, man. I came from sales. I didn't know nothing about podcasting. I am the worst when it comes to technology, right? I admit that. I know my weaknesses. And I got to tell you, I have all this expensive equipment right in front of me, right? And I still only know stop and start, like stop and record. And literally that's it, right? I had to figure out everything. There's so many resources out there, right? Sometimes.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. I'm excited about this one. I don't know if you can feel it from Zoom or from all the way from wherever you are listening to this. But today I have a special guest that before I introduce him to you, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, reviews, likes on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you. And I want to ask you for a favor today. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, some type of information, or the inspiration to go out and do something to make some progress towards your goals, maybe start a podcast, I want to ask you to please share this episode with one friend so that we can motivate, inspire, and bless other men. And and while you do that, don't forget to like, subscribe so that you won't miss another amazing episode. And today I have Ejay Cruz. He's a healthcare professional turned entrepreneur. And during his during his journey in the healthcare leader, Ejay realized that in order to grow and fulfill his ambition while serving others in the masses, he had to take the leap of faith and pursue other opportunities. His passion for people and networking led him to entrepreneurship, leading one of the fastest growing financial agencies across the country and mentoring some of today's world-class entrepreneurs. He's also the founder and host of a top 100 podcast in the world in multiple categories. His podcast is called The Parables. And in addition to expanding his agency and podcasting, Ejay is an investor, keynote speaker, founder, and proud husband, father, man of faith.
Yep.
And very excited to have you, man. And thank you very much for making the time for this. And you are welcome, man.
Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you. Like we were chatting before, we went live. Everything about what you're doing is incredible. From a guy that came from the podcasting world, and the true intentions and the purpose behind it is very respectable. It's honorable. It's admirable, and all the above. So it's a true honor and a privilege to be on your show, man. And I'm confident we could give your audience a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight, a lot of feedback, anything that they could use to grow in all areas of their life, man. So I appreciate you, man. Very fired up to do this. Let's go.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm excited as well. Thank you for that. And the first thing that I do with my guest, Ejay, is I tell them to introduce themselves. Not introduce themselves, to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less.
Yeah, sure. So real quick, growing up, I grew up, I'm Filipino. So a typical Filipino family growing up, you're kind of molded into, going into a profession, right? Lawyer, doctor, you name it, right? With the Filipino family, it's in the medical field, and that's nursing. And so growing up, I was very, I was very ambitious. I had a hustler mentality. Anything I could do to flip something for income, I would do. I'm talking, and this might speak on my age, Pokemon cards, Pogs, sneakers, art drawings. You name it. And fast forward, God bless her. My mom got me into to become a nurse when I was kind of lost, did not know what I wanted to do. And yeah, that's my background. Been a healthcare professional for 11 years, a nurse manager. I oversaw two big hospitals in Southern California. During that time, though, the whole time I was a nurse, I always knew I wanted more. Again, that hustler mentality, that entrepreneurial blood and spirit just could not be contained. And more than halfway done with my master's degree as a family nurse practitioner, I actually walked out and I decided to go through, start my entrepreneurial journey. Did not know what that was. Tapping into a lot of different industries, just learning about myself, was going through self-development phase, reading books, listening to podcasts, learning everything about investing. And eventually I started my podcast. You already mentioned it, was skyrocketed into the top 100 in the world and in the business category and other categories that completely blew up my network, my personal brand. And eventually I got into the world of finances, where I have a passion to help others learn about money, a big problem that we're facing in America. I call it a plague or an epidemic, actually a cancer, in regards to how financially uneducated we are. And I, right now leading one of the fastest growing financial agencies, and in multiple other businesses as well. I'm the type of guy that just can't sit still, and I'm always trying to get my feet in multiple doors. But yeah, man, it's just been quite the journey. I don't regret anything. It's allowed me to be who I am today and who I'm deemed to become. And so yeah, man, absolutely love the journey that I'm on, man.
Exciting. There's a lot to talk about here, man. So man, well, I'm going to talk about something first, selfishly, because
that was very challenging to do in 75 seconds, by the way. That was good. That was good.
Yeah. That's a cool one, huh?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that anywhere in any other podcast. So pretty original. So man, let's see. So man, when I started my podcast, like the first guest that I had was like a ClickFunnels award-winning guy, multiple times ClickFunnels award-winning guy. Reached out to him and he said yes, right? And then he booked it and everything. I had no systems or anything in place. So like I had to scramble around and look for his information and his links and all of that, right? And like a couple of hours before the podcast was going to happen, I got like so much like doubt and fear and like this imposter syndrome. And like I started worrying about what if I can't speak, and what if I look stupid, and what all of these things, man.
Yep.
And I almost canceled the freaking podcast, man. And then that kept on happening multiple times, right? So like I would reach out to this ultra successful person because I was really clear. Like I'm really clear on who I want to be in 10 years from now, like what I want to do, what I want to have, what kind of life I want to have. I'm very clear about that. And I'm interviewing those kinds of people, right? So I was reaching out from the beginning, really successful people, and they would say yes, like they would be willing to help. And that was like a huge mindset shift, because like growing up, like you're told that rich people are evil, right? Like don't get close to them, don't talk to them or whatever. But I would get this feel like I would want to self-sabotage, and then I got over it. But yeah, like what was your experience, man?
Man, I was the same way. I mean, growing up, you learn a lot about yourself. And again, to me, it's kind of like, again, what you were conditioned and your environment. Right. And in regards to the podcast, we're talking about that, man, I was the same exact way. I cannot tell you how fired up I was to even start my podcast. I felt it was original. At the time, I still thought it was still fresh, because this was back in 2017, right? I launched in 2018. I mean, it got serious, man. I knew this was going to be a staple in like my legacy and my story. I mean, I trademarked my podcast name, like you name it, man. I went all in, right? But I cannot tell you, I experienced the same exact thing as you, and everyone does it. Right. We go through this period, or, this shift in our minds in regards to, there's hesitation, there's doubt, there's fear. Right. And in regards to a podcast, and for those who are listening, who are potentially thinking about launching a podcast, right. It's this. Who's going to listen to me? Is the content good? Right. Am I going to get views, or am I going to get listens? Right. And so, we all go through that. But at the end of the day, you may have heard this, right? There's a saying out there, like there's never a right time to start. Everyone starts somewhere, right? And so for me, even till this day, and I don't know, maybe Alex, you resonate with this. Like I came from the healthcare field, man. I came from sales. I didn't know nothing about podcasting. I am the worst when it comes to technology, right? I admit that. I know my weaknesses. And I got to tell you, I have all this expensive equipment right in front of me, right? And I still only know stop and start. like stop and record, and literally that's it, right? I had to figure out everything. There's so many resources out there, right? Sometimes it's not about like, looking for all the resources, but just being resourceful. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many, it's just, there's not, you know, starting a podcast is actually not as hard as everyone thinks, if I could be honest with you. It's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but it's not as hard, right? And without technology these days, and something exactly what you're doing, right? You can, it's very, very, it's pretty easy, right? And so, eventually you just had to get your reps in, right? I mean, I remember my first episode, Alex. I remember like, dude, your introduction was crazy, right? It's confident, it's on point. You know what you're gonna say. I remember my first episode, bro. It was like, hey guys, welcome to the Parables podcast. So today, this is what we're gonna talk about, right? And it's funny, and Alex, you may know this too, or you may resonate with this. My first episode is the most downloaded, right? Because when people come on and get access to my podcast, what do they want to do? They want to go to the first episode and listen. And I'm always thinking to myself, don't go to the first episode, go to like the latest one, right? Yeah. Listen to the latest one where all the growth and the confidence in my speaking and my questions and, the new version of Ejay, right? So, it took a lot of time, took a lot of repetition. I mean, again, I always have this saying too, when it comes to podcasts, there's always something that goes wrong, in my opinion. Because again, this is just, nothing's perfect, right? And so every episode I've had something go wrong, whether that was, a connection, whether the light went off, power went out, someone got dropped off. I don't know. The mic was messing up, more technological difficulties. And so at the end of the day, though, you make it work. And again, it's not really, I'm a big believer, Alex, right? There's two things you can't take back in life. One is time. The second one is first impressions. So when you do something, you execute efficiently as best you can. But at the end of the day, as long as you're giving quality, man. So one of my primary focuses when I did something like this, and maybe for those people who are listening, it may not even have to be just be a podcast, but maybe you're trying to execute an idea or something, right? Did you put the time into it? What does the quality look like? Again, if you were to spread this out and market and advertise it to the masses, right? What would that look like? Would it be impressive? Would it be mediocre? Right. And so, what's the time? What's that quality look like? How much time are you spending on your craft? And eventually what happens is you learn from your mistakes. And someone who's very self-reflective and observant like me, every time I do something, I always think like, how could I have done that better? Right? How could I make the experience better? What could I have said better? How could I have delivered that message better? Right? I think that's very, very key, man. But I experienced it, just to wrap up this topic, I experienced everything you did, man. I went through imposter syndrome. I went through hesitation and doubt. I remember an episode I did one time, I re-recorded 10 times, right? A solo episode, right? Imagine doing that, right? You just you're going over in your head and listening to, I don't like the way I sound, or I didn't like the way that intro was, right? And eventually what I did was on a live episode, I said, you know what, guys, I've been re-recording and I'm not practicing what I preach, the message I'm trying to send here about going all in, right? Being confident, just being authentic, right? And so everything I give you now is going to be just a one-time recording, and that's it. That is it, right? And so, man, everyone goes through that, whether it's starting a podcast, starting a new venture, starting a new business, maybe doing something like completely different out of the ordinary, right? But you just power through it. And eventually what happens is this, you go from an awkward stage to a mechanical stage to a natural stage. That's what happens, right? And it just takes time. That's all it is, okay? Alex, there's something called homeostasis, right? And what that means is, when our bodies go through a different state or a different change, what happens is it tries to bring it back to that natural state. That's the same thing with entrepreneurs or those who are trying things different, because they're getting out of their comfort zone. We've heard this many times, right? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. When you go through an uncomfortable stage or you're going through an awkward, territory, or doing something new or foreign, right? What ends up happening is we have this battle. We have this mental warfare, this battle in our head, right? And all that doubt and fear and anxiety and all that stuff starts to come into play. And there's a reason for that, right? But if you break through that cycle, that's where you start, again, making you hit milestones, you progress and you grow, right? And that's the reason why that happens. And so if you could conquer the mind, if we're talking about the mind here now, right? You could get pretty far in everything you're trying to do. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was great. And actually, so talking about the homeostasis. So, some scientists somewhere did a study, and they wanted to compare the brain of Albert Einstein and like the brain of like a normal human being, and it was like the exact same brain, right? Like they thought that maybe Einstein's brain was going to be a little bit bigger, or there was going to be like a different, and it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
But there was like a chemical that Albert Einstein's brain produced in more quantities, right? And like that chemical, I don't know what it's called, but that chemical is produced when you are when you get out of your comfort zone, right? So like we're talking about right now of homeostasis. So it's the same thing as there's 4 levels of awareness of learning, right? So that you are unconscious incompetence. So you're not even conscious about the fact that you're incompetent, that you're bad at whatever it is that you do, you're trying to do. Then from there you go to conscious incompetence. So now you're like, holy shit, I suck, right? And that's where it starts to get hard, and that's where people give up. But if you keep on going, right, and that's where like homeostasis comes in, and like you have this massive amounts of energy trying to hold you in that place where you are, and not keep and not allow you to keep on moving forward. That's the homeostasis coming into place. But if you push through that, right, you then go into conscious competence, right? Like now you keep on trying and you start getting good, right? You consciously have to make an effort to be competent. And like Einstein, like, he didn't know how to read until like 6th grade, and he wasn't a smart kid, right? But then, like the reason he produced so much of this little thing that he produced, which is, I don't remember what it's called, is because he pushed through it. And like, and the more you produce, the bigger your ability to learn gets, right? So the more, the better, and the better, the more, and the more, the better. So it's like a positive feedback loop. And this liquid, this thing is produced when you get out of homeostasis, when you push yourself through that uncomfortable feeling, when you go from conscious incompetence and you are like, oh, I suck, and you keep on pushing and you keep on doing the work and you keep on learning, and you finally become conscious competent. And then if you keep on pushing, you become unconscious competent, right? So like now you're good without having to even try to be good. Like you said, it goes from awkward to natural, and all it takes is time and pushing through the awkwardness and doing the reps and putting in the work. And I really like that. And man, before you mentioned like a new version of you, a new version of AJ. So like me, and you talked about like being the best, being the best you can. And I just wanted to say, man, that effort is noticed, right? So like effort is noticed. So like even in my first episode, like my effort was noticed. My first episode was pretty good, honestly, and my effort was noticed. Like I prepared and stuff, and it's noticed, right? Until this day, I have a really good relationship with one of the guys that got on my first episode, and he's actually my client, right? Because he noticed the effort, right? Effort is noticed and effort is respected. And you were talking about the new version of AJ. Man, I'm not the same Alex that I was 6 months ago before starting my podcast. Absolutely. Right? Like you change after like 80 plus interviews with multimillionaires, 6, 7, 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs. You change, you get better, right? You evolve, you grow.
Yeah, it's true, man. I mean, think about this too. I'm a big believer in changing your environment. You change your reality, right? And so, what podcasting is able to do for you, it's able to allow you to, it is able to allow you to associate with different individuals, right? And we spoke about this, offline, but, you're not able to potentially, I mean, you can, right? But most of the time it's very, very difficult to get access and to network and to connect, with some of the people out there that you're trying to, high achievers, those who are very, very successful, because again, they're busy, right? They're doing great things in their life. They're spending time with their family. But when you have a platform such as podcasting, it doesn't even just have to be podcasting, but podcasting is one of the most powerful platforms. You're able to do that. Why? Because you're able to connect, right? You're able to help them share their story, right? Share their influence. It's a what I like to call.
Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track Framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the cloak track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. Aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle that helps you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the cloak track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the cloak track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast cloak track framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary, free, absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Called low-key marketing and strategy, right? You're able to cross-promote. You both, right, host and guests are able to leverage your guys' audience, right? And so that's why it's such a powerful tool. But one thing, I love what you said, and going back to my story, like Alex, my personal brand blew the fuck up when I started my podcast, man, because initially when I started my podcast, I was actually just having really, really nice coffee conversations with close friends, talking about their journey, what got them to where they are today, what are their goals and, things like that. And eventually what happened, I started to reach out to other successful high achievers, people who I felt were underdogs doing great things in their community. And next thing you know, right, the network is just crazy. And people are starting to introduce me to their network naturally, because that's what happens, right? When you're a good person, when you're like-minded, right? When you're trying to do great things, other people like that want to be around you. And I automatically start introducing you to their network, their inner circle. And that's what was happening to me, right? And so when I did my podcast, my goodness, my network blew up, my associations blew up. I was given opportunities that I feel I would never have gotten if I never started my podcast, right? Business opportunities, meetings, events, right? It's just crazy, like what happens when you decide to put in those efforts you spoke about, right? Because some people, the number one thing I think people fail to do, right, is just show up, right? So what does that showing up look like? Like you, Alex, right? You are grinding, you are cranking out these episodes like crazy, right? Some people don't even show up. Some people don't even show up to, these networking events, right? Or maybe they're trying to get access to someone and they're not willing to go meet them up at an event, right? Instead, they settle with a DM and they're left, unseen, right? So what are you going to do to go get, to go there and get access, to pull your seat to the table, right? And so it is about those efforts, man, for sure.
Yeah, man. Network. And then guess what? Your net worth is your network, right? Build one and the other one will follow. And it happens to be that right now, it's actually very easy to build your network, right? And you can use podcasting as a tool to build that network and as a vehicle that helps you increase your net worth and help you achieve your goals. So, man, talking about, like net worth and achieving your goals and opportunities and all of that, I know that you have been able to like monetize your podcast and make money out of it, right? I have been able to as well, not in the way, like not because of the views or downloads, but because of the opportunities that I've been able to get through podcasting. So that's what I call monetizing. But like, what about you? Like, how have you been able to like monetize your podcast?
Yeah, to me, anytime you use the word monetize, people think of money all of a sudden, right? Monetize money, right? But to me, right, the best thing that happened in regards to the podcast and what it's been able to do to me is pay its dividends through relationships. Because through those relationships, through those connections, through the nurturing of those associations, I've been able to have, create best friendships, like brothers and sisters that, that I'm going to be a lifelong, right? Opportunities, introductions to new business opportunities, right? Now, don't get me wrong. And what's interesting is when I started my podcast, Alex, I never meant for it to monetize, but because of just the way the platform, the industry was headed, there was just no reason why not to monetize, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I did do like little ads here and there. I did do affiliate marketing, just all the little stuff, right? But in reality, the best monetization, in my opinion,
These
right,
relationships.
were the relationships. There's no
Mm.
question, right? And the one thing to think about also, one thing I want before I forget is this: a lot of people think that it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? To a certain extent, though, Alex, right? It's not what you know, but who you know and what they think of you, right? Because I could be an individual who knows a lot of people, but if they think I'm a bum, if they think I am a degenerate, if they think I'm a douchebag, those relationships do not matter, right? And so it's not what you know, but who you know, but also what they think of you. The second thing is this, right? Oftentimes, what we want to do as high achievers, people who want to grow and expand our associations, is this, right? We want to associate ourselves and grow closer relationships with higher identity people because we're trying to elevate our identity, right? Alex, what we're trying to do, right? Like you said, 6 months ago, you were a different Alex. So what were you doing? You're trying to leave this old identity behind, right? Your identity is tied to you, don't get me wrong, but you're trying to leave this old identity and go to this new identity. Okay. And so what happens is when you're trying to establish these relationships, and let's just say you do and you're connecting and stuff, right? You're automatically forced up to level up to that new identity, right? And that's what I love because
Yeah.
again, those associations transform you, right? Right. You hear that saying, like if you hang out with the 5 people and they're all making more money than you, the likelihood of you making more money or making just as much money or potentially even more is high, right? And so that's the thing as well. There's kind of rules to this game when it comes to networking, right? Is what I'm trying to get at. It's not just about like you're trying to reach out to people, maybe you like your friends on social media. No, that doesn't matter, right? It's again the relationship that you guys have built, what they think of you, and at the same time, what are you doing within that relationship? Okay. Gary Vee says something I really love, and it's not to have expectations, right? Not to have the expectations. And the reason why is if you have high expectations all the time, more than likely you're going to be let down, right? And so for me, I believe truly that you need to earn the right to new relationships. So what does that look like? How do I bring value, right? We always say, you probably hear this all the time. How do you bring value, right? I don't need to bring value in regards to money. I don't need to bring value in regards to maybe like certain skills and talents, right? But maybe my value is just encouragement. Maybe my value is like Alex, I'm a true fan of your content and I'm leaving you comments, right? Or maybe I bring value in regards to lending my hand in regards to like an event, or maybe like something that you're promoting online, right? There's so many different ways that you could provide value. And again, like I bring this up, Alex, because I think networking and associations, like people just get it wrong. They just think it's all about meeting people and that's it. But there's more mechanics to it, man. Right? There's more mechanics. The biggest mechanic or the biggest like simple foundation of it is just being a freaking good person, right? Being a good person, because this is what it is. We all have a barometer or like a meter, or like we have a metric, and I call it like this bullshit like metric or meter, right? Eventually what happens is, like Alex, we spend more time together. At some point, your true identity and character is going to reveal itself to me. And eventually what I'm going to, make a decision on, right, is, hey, is Alex a good dude or is he not? Right. And I'm confident Alex is a good dude. I'm saying this live, right? But I'm going to make that decision eventually. Okay. And if Alex is a good dude, guess what? I want to stick around with them. I do want to reach out to him. I want to maintain this contact, this relationship with them. I'm going to introduce them to my inner circle. You know what I'm saying? Versus obviously, if I start to find out other things like, you don't have good character, or like, you scam, or, whatever it is, right? Then I'm not going to nurture that relationship. I'm going to let that go, right? Because that's what we call a toxic environment, right? So there's different levels to this networking game, man. There's rules to it, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, the foundation is just really being a good person, and I would say bring value as well. So.
100%, man. It all comes down to who you are, right? Who you become. So when you achieve goals, right? A lot of people are fixated on the outcome, on the goal, on the result. But in reality, what they should be fixated on is who they must become in the process, right? Like what are the mindset? What is the habits? What are the actions that person that they must become, right? Like who is it that you must become in order to get to the result?
Yeah.
And it all comes down to that. It all comes down to you, to who you are.
Yep.
And in order to level up that, in order to level that up, so I used to call myself a high performance mindset coach. So like I know a bunch of high performance and mindset tricks, right? To like change your mindset and get rid of limiting beliefs and all of that. But man, the number one mindset hack, the number one mindset trick that you can do to like level yourself up, to level your mindset, to get rid of limiting beliefs, to become more confident or whatever. The number one thing that you can do is just surround yourself with high level people and upgrade the five, like you said, the five closest people that you surround yourself with. Because like every time I get on an interview like this, it's like holding a mirror in front of me, and I'm able to see my greatness. I get this tiny bits of my greatness that I'm able to see, all of the good things that I already have and all the things that I have yet to develop. And it changes your mindset, right? And that's the number one thing that you can do. That's why, listening to podcasts, starting your own podcast, masterminds, networking is so important. And
Yeah.
man, I want to talk about like your financial agency. But before I do, I just want to have one last question about podcasting.
Yeah.
And that's like I just been trying to get better at podcasting, man. I about like asking questions, my interviewing skills and stuff. I actually bought a $25,000 networking course for that. And like
Wow.
what's your take on that, man? Like how do you interview people? Like what kind of questions do you ask? How do you ask the right questions? Yeah, like
Yeah.
just throw some wisdom at me.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, I get this question a lot in regards to, yeah, EJ, people reach out, EJ, that episode was fire. Oh my gosh, you're so good at being an interviewer. Like, how do you know what to ask? Or how do you like know how to navigate the conversation? If I could be completely honest, Alex, I mean,
It's
I don't know.
natural.
I don't know if anyone's like looking for this like hack or just like this, this secret like kind of formula. If I could be completely honest, I love as much as yes, it's like, especially when you have a guest, right? It's technically an interview, I guess you could say, right? At the end of the day, my focus, at least for my podcast, right? So when you develop a podcast, guys, you need to think of lots of things, right? You need to think about the format. You need to think about the theme. You need to think about your target audience, right? All that stuff. But when it comes to podcast, like at least from the theme of my podcast, when I have guests on, my goal was not to make it so like, interviewish,
Professional.
like so like, yeah, calculated, like so like it had it's like a pure agenda. I liked it to be more natural, coffee conversation, like two gentlemen having whiskey and just sharing a great conversation, right? And that's why it's called the parables, right? The parables is a story. It's a story or a message that's slowly unfolding, right, in a conversation. That's why I picked the name, okay? But I mean, for me, that was always the goal, right? Just to have a coffee, laid back, relaxed conversation with someone, right? And just talking about them, everything that's led them up to where they are today, and other things too, that things about their success, stories, things like that, right? And so to me, because of that authenticity, that transparency, that naturality, I don't even know if that's a word, right? But that's like the pure curiosity, right, would just come alive. So for example, Alex, like let's just say I never knew your story and I'm quote unquote interviewing you, like we're having this coffee conversation, right? The more I'm like trying to get to know you and just ask questions and kind of like get you to kind of like open up, it would all just come out of curiosity, man. Like if I could be real with you, right? That's what I love about conversations, right? My passions are networking, relationships, and conversations, right? And with that conversation, to me, that there's a human dynamic that happens there, right? There's a human dynamic happens there that no one could take away. It's like a powerful interaction and an experience that's happening. You hone into that, right? And you just really, and another thing too, Alex, and you're great at this, right? And for future podcasters out there, you got to be great at this, is being present, man. Like, Alex, I am present. I have to be, right? But I am present in this moment right now. I am present with everything you're saying. I am present with all the questions you're asking. And everything you're telling me, like, everything that's coming out of me right now is free flowing, bro. It's coming from the heart, right? It's coming from the heart. So to answer your question, going back, right? Because I know I'm giving a lot of information here. It's really like my questions really come out of curiosity, right? This is why also I love doing podcasts with people I do not know. Like I may have an idea, right, of who they are. Maybe like I've checked out their website or social media, but I love doing episodes with people I don't really know, right? And sometimes, right, you'll do like an episode with someone, and kind of like, one of our necessities as a podcast host is you got to do your research on them, right? And I get it, of course, right? Because you kind of just want to have more control of the conversation. That's what a great speaker is, having control and confidence and certainty in the conversation, right? At the same time, though, right, I leave a little mystery there too, because I want that natural conversation to take place, a little curiosity, right? And so for me, that's really it, man. I don't got like the secret formula of like, oh, this question, this question, this question. You know what I mean? Like I'll maybe have some questions like I'm thinking about, like while I'm preparing, like a couple of days before, maybe a week before, whatever that looks like in regards to your preparation. But in reality, like I'm just present, bro. I'm present in the actual conversation, and I just let it free flow. Curiosity is a powerful incubator, man. Powerful incubator to stimulating a very natural, authentic, transparent episode and conversation, man. So
Yeah, cool. That's a great insight. Yeah, and actually, like the more you focus on the person, the more you are interested, the more interesting you appear, right? So yeah, it's absolutely a
I
key.
love that. Yeah.
And man, so let's talk about your agency, man. So like, how is it that you help people learn about money? Because man, I want to learn about money. Like, I'm not like the best with like managing and handling money. So yeah, like what is it that you do with your agency?
Yeah. So I'm a financial broker, right? I oversee a team across the United States, obviously with this whole COVID era and us being digital, kind of like how we are today. But here's the issue, Alex, is during my let me go back to my story real quick. As I was, soul searching, trying to figure out what my next move was, obviously it was entrepreneurship, but that's such a broad, right, industry, right? What does that mean? So as I was like soul searching, trying to find my lane, okay, what I knew was this deep down in my heart, that I'm going to be wealthy, right? I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, and I know where I'm headed. But I had to do a little gut check, right? I had to come into like a really reality, and it's this, because at a young age, man, as a nurse, I was already making six figures, right? I already knew how to make money. I knew how to save a little bit in budget, right? But I didn't know how to protect that money. I didn't know how to manage it. I didn't know how to protect it, right? I didn't know how to invest. I didn't know how to grow, right? All these different, dynamics and areas when it comes to finance. So I told myself, well, hey, look, EJ, if you're going to be this multi-millionaire dollar earner, you need to understand money better, right? And these are the facts. And I know I was telling you this earlier, is this, right? Financial illiteracy is a plague in our world. It's an epidemic. It is a big, big problem. Now, in the United States and the world, right? Everyone that's listening to this, please listen, okay? The United States is not even top 10 in the world when it comes to financial education.
Crazy, right?
It's crazy, right? The average savings an American family has today is less than $400. Okay. So I call the lack of financial education, financial illiteracy. In fact, April is actually Financial Literacy Month. I know it's April 29th right now, but it's Financial Literacy Month as far as April, okay? The cancer is the lack of financial education. And what does that mean? That means that families are affected. They are impacted. Their quality of life is impacted severely, right? I come from nursing, right, Alex? So I used to see this all the time. I'd be taking care of my patient. I'd go to the patient's room, families there, and they're struggling. They're having conversations and arguing about money. Who's going to take care of dad when he goes away? Who's going to take over the debt? Who's going to take over the house? Or how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to bury him? Right? And, money's not everything, okay? But it's everything to some people too. Let's just be honest, right? And the more money you have, the more I could use as a tool to do the other great things I'm trying to do in this world, okay? But the fact is this, the average American family, right, or the average American worker is struggling, right? They're struggling in regards to financial literacy, what to do with their money. Okay, so what our agency does is, going back to your question, is we're financial educators. We help families understand the basics of finance, personal wealth management, right? Learn the principles. Okay, we dissect their finances and we give them, insight, feedback, strategies in regards to how to improve in those different areas, and we do it all for free, right? And this is not a hard pitch or anything like that, right? But this is what's missing in the industry, and this is why I love what we're doing in our business and our crusade and our mission. We don't charge broker fees, advisor fees, consultation fees, right? Usually what happens is this: if you're trying to get the proper financial coaching, counseling, consultation, all that stuff, okay, you have to pay fees, consultation fees, advisor fees, right? Brokerage fees. Okay. Guess what? Most of the biggest companies out there, they only tailor to the 1%. Why? Because they're wealthy, right? And if they could manage, they got the money. So when they manage that money, they make money. Okay. And so for us, what we're focused on, we're one of the few agencies that help people at the family level, right? We want to teach families how to better save, how to protect, how to grow, how to invest, all that stuff. If we could educate more people, right, that will make them make better, rational, logical decisions towards their financial future, which ultimately, Alex, will impact their quality of life. What if I could go back in time, right? I was making six figures at a very young age. What if someone had taught me about money at a very young age? How much different would my life be? How much more money would I potentially have? How much less stress and anxiety and fear and doubt would I have less if someone was taught me something? If our education system at school actually taught finance, right? Which they don't, right? And so that's what we do, man. Right? We're licensed professionals. I run a team of world-class entrepreneurs that help families, and not just families, all walks of life. The single mom, the entrepreneur, the high net worth client, right? The family, right? Whatever, right? We help people understand money, right? Plain and simple. We educate them. And then if they want to, focus on an area in their finances, example, retirement, then we take care of them, right? But financial education is a big problem. It's a passion of mine. I love helping especially like the younger generation, because, dude, we're trying to build the next leaders, right? I have a kid, right? I want to know that our next generation, we're leading them in the right direction, man, right? And so that's why I'm passionate. I come from a nursing background. I love to help people. Now I'm helping people, not with their health, like in nursing, I'm helping them with their financial health. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, man, it's very, very exciting. And that's our crusade and our mission, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Man, I actually started my entrepreneurial journey 3 years ago, selling insurance. So I had a pretty similar, mission, and I believed it in, very quick and on purpose. I actually just had this thought right now that you don't find purpose. You don't find purpose. I think you pick purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just choose it and you commit to it.
That is powerful. That is powerful what you just said. I don't think they find purpose, but you choose it. That is powerful.
You choose purpose, man, and then you commit to it. And then the more you commit to it, it's like a positive feedback loop, right? Mm-hmm. You're committed to your purpose. You take action towards your purpose. You get good results, and you're like, holy shit, this is my purpose. And then it's a positive feedback loop, and then you believe it. So like purpose is just about, I think, right now I had the thought that purpose is just about the belief that you have about the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I came into the insurance world and like my purpose, I'm from a Mexican background. My grandfather died from cancer, and he didn't have, my grandmother had to go back to Mexico because we lost everything when we were living in the United States because my grandpa didn't have insurance. And then my second grandpa also died, and he didn't leave anything for us. Right. And again, we had to go back to Mexico, and my purpose was to, and I did really good in insurance. And the reason was because I had a purpose. I've always been really purpose driven, right? And like, I don't like motivation. Like I don't need motivation. Well, it's not that I don't like motivation, but I don't need motivation.
It's temporary too. It's temporary. Motivation is temporary.
But sometimes I feel like I'm missing out because, like there's people that have things that they want. So like they're getting pulled towards what they want. And then there's people that have things that they fear. So they've been pushed by what they fear. And I don't have anything pushing me or pulling me. I have like this intrinsic motivation that comes from within, and it's because of purpose, right? And like the way you get purpose is by choosing it and committing to it. So when I was doing insurance, I had this purpose that I believed, right? Like I had a strong belief that was my purpose, and I was educating people from the middle and the lower income class, right? Hispanic people from the middle and the lower income class in the United States, so that they can get out of a generational cycle of poverty and build wealth. That was my purpose.
Breaking the cycle.
And I was extremely driven. And I could outperform anyone in the insurance world because I believe I had a purpose, right? And while they were just selling insurance, I was like on a mission, on a crusade, just like you said right now.
Yeah,
So, man, we have a couple of minutes, and I finished my interviews with 5 questions. So
sure.
the first one is, well, this is not the first one, but how old are you, man? I'm just curious.
Ah, man, you're killing me over here, man. My birthday just passed April 10th. So I am 36. I'm
Cool.
36. Yeah.
Awesome.
36
Awesome.
years old. I feel like I'm 26 though. I'll tell you all that.
That's crazy. That's amazing, man. I'm glad. So I speak to people older than me, and I just see how like they're full of life. And I used to think that by the time because I grew up in Mexico, right? Like in Mexico, like you see someone who's 40 years old and they're done. And I've been speaking to a lot of people who are in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s, and they're just starting. So like I'm excited for life, man. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you that. But the first question is, what would you give your 20-year-old self? Like if you could give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
Yeah. A couple things. First is first one's be fearless. No particular order, but for the first one that pops to my mind is definitely be fearless. Right. I think oftentimes what I did, and I think everyone's like this, right? We let fear consume us, and it holds us back. It hinders our growth. It hinders everything we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so if I had the idea of like, what getting out of that fear and conquering that fear could do for you at a young age, right? I think, things might be a little different. The second thing is definitely financial education, taking it way, way more serious, right? I felt I was definitely more mature than my surroundings, my environment, my friends, but I still was going through that. Everyone goes through that growing phase, right, where you're screwing up, you're screwing around and things like that. But I wish I was a little more intentional with financial education, because it's very, very important, especially when you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur. You want to contribute to society, and then especially as a family man, right? The last one, of course, is definitely just associations, right? Doing it the right way, not just trying to be popular, right?
Yeah.
Or just trying to get your name out there, really having true purpose and intentions behind those associations, right? Those are definitely the three things that come to mind. And sometimes the biggest lessons too is going through those hardships and through those failures, and doing things the wrong way. So I want to make it very clear, like, yeah, those are some things I wish I could have told myself and could have done. But at the same time, it's made me who I am today. It's made me more rational, more logical, more calculated, a lot more wisdom, right? It's made me who I am today, for sure, right? That's how growth happens, by going through those hardships, those adversities, those challenges, those mental blocks. And so, yeah, man.
Powerful. Powerful. And by the way, man, I'm sorry. Happy belated birthday. Okay. Hope you had an
I
amazing
appreciate
time.
it, man.
And the second question is around mindset. So, what is a mindset shift that you've had that you think has contributed to your success?
Oh man, I think it's presence and intentions. So
Yeah.
when I say presence, it's of course like being present, like as in, you really are focusing on the moment. And don't get me wrong, I'll be first to say I'm not perfect at this. It's very, very hard, because we live in a fast-paced environment. There's so many distractions, and especially when your mind is firing at all cylinders like mine is, right? You're always thinking about something, right? I'm present here, but I promise you, so in the back of my head, there's other things, thinking about all the other stuff I got to accomplish and do, right? But it's really just just taking a deep breath and just like really, really submerging yourself into the present moment, man. And I think that really changed for me, especially when I started a family, right? These are
Mm,
moments that are never gonna, I'm never gonna be able to, get back, if that makes sense,
yeah.
right? And so that's why I said time is like one of the most valuable, precious things. Okay, so that's that. Um, the second one is being intentional. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to go out and do something amazing, if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to find your purpose, if you're trying to start a podcast, whatever it is, right? You got to be intentional. And what I mean by that, you got to take those small little efforts, whether they're good efforts, bad efforts, but eventually it compounds, and eventually you accomplish a task, you accomplish a milestone, a goal, whatever it is that leads towards what you're trying to do, right? Oftentimes people are always at, they say they want to do this, right, Alex, or they want to do that. But then when you ask them how you're going to do it, they don't have no plan, right? If you don't have no plan, that means you're not being intentional. You're not, you're not, and if you don't have a plan, you can't execute. Okay. So whatever that is, like the next time, right, you ask someone like what their goals are or what you're trying to do, right? The second question you should ask them is, hey, how are you doing it? Right. If someone does that to you and you can't answer that, that means you're not being intentional, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
You're not being intentional. So presence and being intentional, those are two huge things. And actually, Alex, one more thing, sorry to interrupt, is reflection. Huge. Everything I do, bro, I'm not joking. Like right after this interview, right, this episode, I'm already going to start thinking, man, how could I deliver this message better to give more value to Alex's audience? How could I have said this better, or what topic should I have brought in that I feel like was missing, right? Being reflective, right? Being observant, right? Just thinking about that, I think that's huge. So presence, right? Reflection, and being intentional.
Those simple things, right, man?
Yeah, man. That comes with age, man. That's why I'm 36, brother. That wisdom.
So the next question is around map, right? So we talked about like knowing what you want. So do you have any advice for people who may need or may lack clarity in their life?
Absolutely. Everyone goes through this, whether that's a midlife crisis, soul searching, you're just lost, maybe you're confused. I think it's just spending more time on yourself. And what I mean by that is it's actually going back to being intentional. Because oftentimes what we do is, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what direction I'm here. I'm confused. I have no clarity, right? And that means that you are not only not being intentional, but you're not putting yourself out there. And let me give you an example, right? If you're confused right now, what you should be doing is this. You should be getting yourself out there, learning about yourself, trying new things, right? Getting yourself in uncomfortable situations, networking, right? Because eventually what happens is this. You'll eventually find something you're passionate about, right? You'll choose, like you said, you'll choose your purpose, right? Or you'll start to find skill sets that you identify you're good at. Then what happens is you try to identify, you're able to look at that. And if you're clever and smart, you're going to tell yourself, hey, well, what can I do with this skill set and make it into a business? Or, how can I get paid to do this? Right? Or how can I fuel this? Okay. And that's what happened to me, right? Before I started my podcast, the one thing I did, I took a yellow notepad and I wrote down, because I was always about flipping, like, again, hustling, right? I was always about making money, selling this, selling that, right? Like Craigslist, like straight up, right? So what I did was this, I took a yellow notepad and I said, all right, EJ, stop thinking about money. What are you good at, or what do you love? Again, networking, conversations, meeting people. Okay. And I took those three and I said to myself, okay, what can I do with this? And you know what I did? I launched the Parables, my podcast, right? What I did was, I got into the financial industry, helping people, or I got even nursing too, right? That speaks on behalf of nursing also, right? So that's what I think you should do to answer your question. You got to just, again, the clarity is obviously going to be very, very hazy, right? You don't know, right? You got to be patient, that's for sure. But you just got to start putting yourself out there, right? Try new things, network, right? Listen to podcasts, read books, right? Associate yourself with people like Alex, right? Get out of your comfort zone, change your environment. Eventually what you're going to find is you're going to find different things that you resonate with, that that you share a relationship with. You're going to find different skill sets. You're going to find different talents, different passions, different strengths and weaknesses too, right? And I think that'll give you some clarity, and eventually you'll find your way.
Nice, man. Awesome. Now it's mindset map motion. So what is a habit that you have that you think has contributed to your success?
Oh, man. Something I'm always working on, because as you continue to grow and evolve and adapt, right, these habits have to change. Okay. There's definitely a great book I recommend. It's called Atomic Habits by, I think his name is James Clear. Great book. But my habits are always evolving. But I'll say this. I focus on the 5 principles of life: faith, family, fitness, and finance. You might be hearing my daughter. I apologize. Right? Faith, family, fitness, and finance. Okay. And to me, my world surrounds around that. Right. So those habits, like I have to enrich all those principles in my life for me to have a happy life and to do everything I'm trying to do. Okay. So whatever those habits look like, whether it's being present, making sure I spend time with family, being able to get my fitness in, whether that's even like walking or lifting, right? It's really just developing those habits and that discipline and that commitment that's going to help sharpen the mind, and of course stick to those 5 principles that I truly believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same, man. I just call them freedoms. Same message, different messenger.
Yeah.
Right. And so the last question is around measure. Mind to map, motion, measure, money. If you do those 4 right, you'll get the money, which is what everyone wants, results in every single area of their life: physical freedom, emotional freedom, spiritual freedom, sentimental freedom, financial freedom. So the last one is, what do you think about measuring and tracking?
Measuring and tracking in regards to like just like everything. Progress, or like just measuring your numbers, or what do you mean?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. I think what can't be, you have to measure everything, whatever that looks like, whether that's your business, those are your numbers. That's part of self-reflection, like I spoke about anyway, right? Yeah. You're self-reflecting, how far you've come, how long it took you to get there, right? Everything needs to be calculated, right? It's crazy. I like to do something called reverse engineering, right? So for example, when I coach one of my leaders and they're saying, EJ, I want to get here. This is one of my goals. I'm like, okay, let's look at it. Okay, how are we going to get there? Right? And we reverse engineer it. Okay. We break down the numbers of how we're going to get through each step, right? In a duration of time. Once you reverse engineer it, that's called planning, that's organization. And then that's how you're able to execute, and the likelihood of you getting to that goal is clear. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think it's very, very important. And it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be any goal. It could be any plan. It could be just anything that you're trying to achieve. Like, awesome, for sure, man. Right? And that's part of the reflection piece I was talking about.
Yeah, 100%. So, man, I've really enjoyed this, AJ, and thank you for sharing all the wisdom, man, and thank you I've had a lot of fun. And someone else who loved AJ, they want to know what the parables is about, like more about the financial agency that you run and stuff. Where can they find you? Where should they go? Where's the best place to get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best place is just probably Instagram. Right now I'm working on a few things with my website and some other things to get access to me, but right now the best place is Instagram. So that's Instagram.com//, it's Ejay Cruz, ITSEJAYCRUZ. So that's my handle. Again, ITSEJAYCRUZ. Reach out to me there, whether you are looking for some guidance, maybe you're looking to start your own podcast. If you definitely are looking to start your financial journey and just get some insight on how to learn. Again, right now it's Financial Literacy Month. I've been giving away free books in regards to this, just starting that. But yeah, reach out to me there. Anything I could do to help. And again, Alex, I appreciate you giving me this platform, and hopefully I gave a lot of value to your audience. I'm actually very confident we did.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I really appreciate you, and have an awesome weekend.
Yep. Let's go, baby.
Bye-bye, man.
Go.
Thank you for watching the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms